Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Nose to Tail, Leaf to Root Cooking with Chef Michael Ream. Today's event is being recorded. Feel free to type your questions in the chat, and I will be relaying them to Chef Michael as he cooks. And we will also be sending out a survey about the DMV Food Recovery Week in the next couple of weeks via Eventbrite. So please look out for that and fill that out. We also encourage you to post on social media about this event with the hashtag DMV Food Recovery Week. And also we have tomorrow one more event for that finishes off Food Recovery Week. You can still register. It's a farm tour, Red Wiggler farm tour, and I'll talk a little bit more about it at the end of our time today. Okay, so let's get started with today's presentation. I want to introduce myself first. I'm Cheryl Collin. I'm the Program Director of Community Food Rescue. And I am happy to moderate tonight's cooking event. And I'll also be asking Chef Mike some questions as well as asking yours. So I'm pleased to introduce Chef Mike Ream. For some reason, this next slide is not coming up, so I'm going to get it up manually. There we are. Okay. So let me introduce Executive Chef Michael Ream. After serving in the United States Navy, Chef Mike began working in the hotel industry, making his way through the ranks to executive chef. As an executive chef, Mike worked in private clubs, sports, entertainment, and corporate dining. Living in Montgomery County for the past 25 years, Mike enthusiastically embraces Montgomery County's sustainability goals, both at work and at home, through his own gardening, composting, and always creating ways to minimize food waste. Tonight, Chef Mike will show us how to cook several dishes using nose to tail and leaf to root techniques. I have put the link to Mike's recipes in the chat box. I'm going to put it in several times if you've joined after I put it in. And you'll be able to pull off all of his recipes and make them on your own. So without further ado, Mike, take it away.
All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to my home. My name is Chef Michael Ream. Today we're going to be going over several recipes, trying to utilize items we not normally would consider using. The menu for tonight, we're going to make a beautiful herb oil, which can be stored in the refrigerator or frozen. I've got a beautiful pumpkin bread to go with the season, a chicken stew, a vegetable chili, and some collard greens. If we don't get to all of your questions in the next hour, you can easily email me. My email is on the invitation. And thank you again for joining us.
And I'm just going to remind everybody to set your camera or your view on gallery view because Mike has two cameras. He is got one on his stove top, so you will see that, and he's moving his camera now to a cutting board. And I've just put the link again in the chat box.
Okay. How does that look, Cheryl?
Looks great. We see your knife and your cutting board.
Excellent. All right, everybody. First thing we want to do is go over and make some herb oil. The herb oil recipe that I'm giving you, like I said before, can be stored. I usually store it in a mason jar like this. And I don't use the tin. I use a plastic top so I can freeze it and keep it in the refrigerator. And then as you use the oil, you can refill the oil and just keep that fresh and keep that going. So I have a very hot pot right here. I'm going to put in the peppercorns. Now I used a tricolor peppercorn, but you could use a black pepper, you could use a white peppercorn, whatever you like. I've got a couple of bay leaves. And then the great thing about the herbs is most people would just use the leaves, but go ahead and throw the stems in there too. The stems have a lot of flavor in them too. So you just pull that. I guess some rosemary, a little bit of thyme. Okay. Sometimes they're a little tough. Go ahead and cut them. No shame in that. And you'll see this bubble. I've got a couple of cloves of garlic. Give that a crack. And even the skins too, you could throw in there. Okay. And then also too, the stems can also be thrown in a chicken stock. They can also be thrown in a vegetable stock. And then this is perfect just like this. Okay.
I'm just going to remind folks, if you have a question for Chef Mike, type it in the chat box, and I'm monitoring so I can share your questions with him.
The next recipe I want to get to is our pumpkin bread. Now, I want to show you. I roasted this pumpkin earlier today. I used a small pumpkin. Save the seeds. And then the meat you can just take. Just take a bowl, scoop out all this meat. The great thing about this pumpkin is if you check the recipe, it says 15 ounce. Normally you would use a 15-ounce can of solid packed pumpkin. But you go ahead and take this, puree it, put it in small bags, but weigh it out 15 ounces. So then you'd only take out what you need out of the freezer when you need it. Also too, this pumpkin, you could actually mix it in with cat food if you have too much pumpkin left over. And then we put a little bit in the cat food every day. It helps with their digestion. But don't use pumpkin that has the different flavorings in it, the canned pumpkin. Okay, it's got to be the solid packed. Okay. Now I have a small pumpkin here. I'm going to show you how to cut this. And then we're going to scoop out the seeds. And then you can save the seeds to toast.
Mike, can you use any kind of pumpkin, or is there a particular kind of pumpkin, like a sugar pumpkin that's best?
The smaller the pumpkin, the better, because those are the sweet ones. But if you do have a large pumpkin, you could even use butternut squash is good, and any other kind of gourd that you want to use. If you want to use acorn squash, that's pretty good too. But yeah, the smaller the pumpkin, the better. But if you do have large pumpkins, you can go ahead and use that. But you'll probably have to cut it in quarters just to fit it in the oven, though. So.
And can you just give us a brief, how do you roast a pumpkin, what temperature, and for how long?
Of course. If you do 45 minutes, 350 degrees, and I put them skin side up, you'll see the skin gets a beautiful brown. You can cut the meat out first and roast it that way, but I like to do it with the skin on because it gives it a very nice fall buttery flavor, almost like nutmeg when you roast it with the skin on. Okay. And then just let it sit for, 10 minutes. And then you can pull it out. I had those sitting for an hour just to cool it down so I can handle it. And then I want to show you the I already pre-mixed or pre-made the mix for the pumpkin bread. And the only thing I need to add is the orange zest. Here's the mix here. Now for the orange zest, I have this beautiful zester. This works perfect for this here. I need about a tablespoon. This is going to get thrown in the mix here. Then I'm just going to hand mix this in. Normally I would just use the mixer, and we found it was too loud. You wouldn't be able to hear me. So I'm just going to mix that in. And this mix is perfect for 2 pound cake loaf pans. Now I've already pre-floured and pre-buttered and pre-floured these pans. You want to put this mix in. Share this for the 2 pans. And this mix is perfect for either 2 loaf pans, that's a pound loaf pan, or 1 bundt pan. I'm going to show you what I did with the bundt pan.
Mike, we have a question about if you have any tips for getting the stringy part of the pumpkin away from the seeds if you want to save the seeds. That's always tricky.
Let me show you how to do that. Put them in a large bowl like I did. And then go ahead and soak them. The stringy part should sink. And then you can squeeze the seeds right out. I'm going to show you exactly in this here. Can you see that okay?
Yeah, if you move it over. Perfect.
Let me show you. There you go. So see how the seeds floated? They're floating, and then here's the meat. And all you have to do is squeeze these out. These will pop right out.
That's great.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot easier. And then the more water you put in, the seeds will float, this meat will sink.
Yeah. And can you use that meat to cook?
Oh, yeah, definitely. You can definitely use this. You would just throw it right on the pan with the pumpkin.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, see how perfect that is?
Perfect, yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Mike, what about using a jack-o'-lantern that's been carved? Can you cook that after it's been carved and sitting outside?
After it's been carved, no, I wouldn't go ahead and use it. You don't know who visited it as far as the wildlife. But if the jack-o'-lantern if you put it out and it doesn't have any kind of cuts or holes or abrasions, then you should be fine to be able to use it.
Just setting the pumpkin outside as a whole pumpkin, not cutting it, you mean?
Correct, yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't risk it. I mean, you have no idea what went out there. But I have to show you this here, this orange. I mean, there's nothing wrong with this orange. So I'm just going to peel this. And later on, I have we have the vegetable chili. I don't know if anybody's familiar with the Aquafaba, but the Aquafaba is the water in which the legumes have been cooked. So normally people would just take the can of, I used kidney beans, take the can of kidney beans and just let the water drain down the sink. But you can actually whip this just like egg whites. And it's got a lot of protein in it. And that's the whole idea. You could use it for vegan in place of egg whites or eggs. So let me show you what I got here. Now this morning I made a pumpkin bread with the bundt pan. So either you're going to get 2 loaf pans or 1 bundt pan. And I made a meringue with the kidney bean Aquafaba. So I'm going to put that on top here.
So is that just the whipped?
This is the whipped Aquafaba. I put a little bit of simple syrup, which is just melted sugar and a little bit of water. And let me show you the properties of this. This'll torch just like meringue.
Wow.
I wish you could smell it. It smells just like marshmallows. It smells really good.
And it's beautiful.
Yeah. So the pumpkin I did this morning, I roasted the pumpkin seeds. So we're just going to put a little bit of that on there. And I know all my neighbors know me. I have fresh figs growing in my garden. So I'm going to take that orange that we did the zest, pop that in the center. And then I'm just going to add a couple of fresh figs on there.
I think I need your address so I can get some of those fresh figs.
There's a line out the door.
Yeah, really.
You saw the Admiral here, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we planted this fig tree about 10 years ago. There's only one season where it didn't give us fruit, but I mean, this is definitely fall, and then sometimes you're just using what nature gives you, you know. So
that's beautiful. Can you just describe quickly how you roasted those pumpkin seeds?
Sure. I did the pumpkin seeds. Now you could leave them whole too. I just decided to. I just decided to crush them, but I did a saute pan. I baked them at 300 degrees for 10 minutes or until lightly brown. And I didn't put any seasoning on them because I didn't want to add more salt to the dish. And then I could use the seeds for whatever I want to use them for. So that was the whole idea of not adding the salt and pepper.
Great, thank you.
The next thing we're going to do is the chicken stew.
While Mike's getting that, just for people who joined us later, I have a link to the recipes that Mike is showing us tonight, and I'm going to put that in the chat box so that you can pull off those recipes and cook them on your own.
I've got a saute pan. I already started some chicken. I took a whole chicken. I broke it down to 8 pieces. And I'm just going to finish up the last 4 pieces here. And just take some herb oil that we just made. Now, the whole idea for this recipe was this is a very plain chicken recipe. It's got great flavor. But this recipe, if you don't like mushrooms, you don't have to add the mushrooms. If you're not too fond of a particular item in the recipe, you can omit it. The mushrooms is always the biggest thing. If you don't want potatoes, that's fine. Don't add the potatoes. It's not going to hurt the recipe. And the recipe is versatile. So if you are going for more of like a Thai, you know, you can use shiitake mushrooms. You could use, you know, some teriyaki sauce. Maybe instead of white wine, go ahead and use some sherry.
So I'm just going to remind folks that Mike has 2 cameras. One is on that cutting board and the other's at his stove. So if you don't see him at the cutting board, he's at his stove.
Yeah, sorry about that. And also too, the mushrooms, I wash the mushrooms. I cut a little bit of the stem off, but I like to leave them whole. So I know a lot of people don't like them whole, but I like to see them that way. Also too, the stems that I did cut off, I put in the chicken stock. Like I said, this even the carrot. I mean, it's not necessary to go ahead and peel the carrots all the time. I mean, I soak them, I scrub them with a scrub brush, and then even if you do that, if you're still not the type of person that likes, you know, the skins or anything, go ahead and cut them off, but that's perfect for your chicken stock. Or you could use it for a vegetable stock. Okay. For me, you paid for all of it. You know, you should try to get as much out of it as possible. And then the whole chicken that I did cut up, the back, the chicken back is what I made the stock from. Finish this one off.
And your recipe for the stock is in your recipe collection. Are there any tips about making a stock?
It depends on what you're going to use a stock for. If you're going to use a stock to make like a chicken noodle soup, you want the stock as clear as possible. I wouldn't put carrot scraps actually in the stock. If it doesn't matter, like this chicken dish, go ahead and put them in there. It's not going to hurt. All it is going to give flavor. Okay. And then even with the potatoes, I had these soaking. I scrubbed them with a brush. And there's nothing wrong with putting the skins in there. And if you're gluten-free, you're not wanting the extra starch in there, you don't have to put potatoes in. I just think that it just gives it a little something extra. Okay. Let me see. And then the chicken, you just want to brown on each side. Can you see that from here?
Yes. And what did you coat the chicken in?
This is the herb oil that I have in there.
And you floured the chicken?
I floured the chicken. I seasoned the flour with the little salt and pepper. And actually, while that's cooking, I actually have one already done. And good thing, because the Admiral is at the door. I don't want him starving. Now, see, I had leftover portobello mushrooms. I'm going to plate this up, and I have a little bit of rice too.
That looks amazing.
Yeah. I really wish everyone could come by and have some.
So do we.
I mean, I'm gonna try my best. I can't eat all of this, but I'm gonna try my best. And also too, always remember when you're doing this, you got to make sure that you're not cross-contaminating anything. So, like after I use the chicken, I wash my hands. Put a little bit of rice in here. I did a little saffron rice. So I'm going to get one big piece of chicken out.
And how long did you bake that, and what temperature? And
the rice?
The chicken dish.
Oh, the chicken I had in the oven at 350 degrees. I did it for, now depending on the chicken size, I did it uncovered 40 minutes until it was 160 degrees Fahrenheit. We get a little vegetables in there.
We can't see your plate though. We just see the.
I'm sorry. Can you see this here?
You're going to have to move the casserole, the chicken.
All right.
Beautiful.
So you got all the nice fall vegetables in there, the mushrooms. And then, let's see here.
Mike, did you add any liquid to the chicken casserole, or is that just from the vegetables?
No, that's, I put in 2 cups of the chicken stock. So that's why I put it in a bowl here. I put a little bit of that in there, and I got a little bit of parsley. I know it's a little old-fashioned, but I still like it. And the parsley stems. So you see this parsley here, the leaf, the stem. The stem I put in a Ziploc bag, a freezer bag, and froze it, and then that easily could become like a chimichurri sauce or a green sauce you could make for like a taco or something. Let me put this over here.
So utilizing all those parts of the parsley that you might get from a bunch at the grocery store.
What's that?
So utilizing all those stems from a bunch of parsley that you might get at the grocery store.
Correct.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, I mean, you paid for all of it.
Right.
So there's no reason why. And I know people say, oh, well, you know, it's going to have a lot of sand in it or whatever. But, you know, I soaked those overnight. I had that soaking in the water. So, you know, anything, any sand or anything, it's just going to fall to the bottom anyway. So, but then
Mike, there's a question about whether you can freeze that chicken dish after it's cooked.
Yes, you can.
And how long will that last in the freezer?
I would say at least 2 weeks in the freezer. I've got all the vegetables here. I'm going to throw in 1 bay leaf. I've got thyme and rosemary. Now, you don't have to cook these vegetables all the way. You just want to give them a little color, that's all.
Does it still work if you can't flip the vegetables so professionally like you just did?
Yes, it does.
Good.
If you have to, if you have to, you could definitely use a spoon. There's no shame in that. No shame at all. While that's getting a little color, I'm going to go ahead and finish this chili. I'm here at the stove. And then the vegetable chili, the whole idea was this, is that I have meat in almost everything here. So I wanted to give people a little something a little different, something that all their vegan family members can enjoy. And again, this easily can be used. You can easily put meat in here. Any of the vegetables, you could definitely leave out. You know, zucchini. I love zucchini and yellow squash. I'll put those in. The jalapeno pepper you could leave out, depending on how spicy you want it. And the here's the rest of my ingredients here. This is the one thing I wanted to show you too. These peppers I put in a little freezer bag, Ziploc, and then take them out as you need it. And I'm just going to pop that in the chili. I have the black beans, and here's the, I don't know if you can see it right here. Here's the fava juice right here from the black beans. This will whip up to almost like that meringue. They're kidney beans.
And what would you
the
use?
Roasted corn, even the roasted corn. I roasted it whole on the cob, in the skins, cleaned it, rinsed it, and then the cob I actually threw in the chicken stock just to give it more flavor.
Mike, what would you use that black bean liquid whipped up for?
You can use that for a dessert, just like the meringue. If you saw the kidney beans had a little bit of like a pink hue to it. This one here will whip up. It'll just be a little gray. I put a little almond extract in it. And then with this here, the chili, you're gonna roll your lime. And I'm just gonna put a little zest of the lime in there too. Anytime I do a little chili, I'm gonna squeeze this in there.
So I know you list certain vegetables in your chili recipe, but I imagine you could substitute anything.
Oh yeah, whatever you need. I even put butternut squash in there. You can easily put pumpkin in there. You can easily put, or leave items out. Whatever is available to you. Now for this lime, I'm going to put this, I don't know if you can see this.
No.
Okay, how about here?
Yes.
Little lime I just put in here. Now this would be perfect for an adult beverage. But I'm just going to add this. A little bit of seltzer in there. And that's perfect right there. So you didn't waste the limes either.
Nice.
For that too, a chef friend of mine, I traded him some tomatoes and figs, and he traded me some lemon verbena.
Mm.
For this here, you can just put a couple little sprigs of this in there. And all really it is lemon tea leaves. Throw a couple of that in there. I keep this in the freezer. I'll keep that in the freezer and then just pull out when I need it. The same thing with all the other herbs too. All right. Looking good.
Do you wash and dry your herbs before you freeze them?
I do. And I don't dry them all the way. It's okay to leave them a little bit of a little moisture on them. I want you to be able to see this. Now, normally I wouldn't put a lot of wine in it, but I know the Admiral's coming over. I'm going to hit this with a good amount of wine.
So this is the dish before it went in the oven.
Correct.
This is you sauteed the veggies.
Yep.
You seared the chicken. Got it.
Now I'm just deglazing the pan with the white wine. I'll let that reduce. I'm just going to put that right on top. And then I'm just going to take some of the chicken stock, put it through the strainer.
There's a question about whether there's a good replacement for wine in this and other recipes if you don't have wine in the house.
Yeah, yes, you could just add more chicken stock if you'd like, or you could just leave the wine out altogether. I'm gonna put that chicken stock in there. That's gonna go right in the oven. Let me see here. I'm going to go ahead and plate this chili up.
How long does the chili cook for?
Well, I had the vegetables roasting today. Usually it's about 35 minutes, depending on what vegetables and how small you're cutting the carrots and the onions. Probably the butternut squash that I put in there, that probably took the longest time. But, I mean, it looks great. All you vegans are going to love it. And then I also made, let me see here.
Ooh, that looks great.
Yeah. Also made some fresh salsa, some fresh guacamole. And then this is fine too, keep it in with the vegan. Is here. I put a little guacamole on there. So it's almost like a taco, but you know, there's no shell, there's no meat. Put a little tomato on there.
What do you put in your guacamole?
You know, there's a reason why I didn't add that recipe.
Oh,
I'll tell you a couple ingredients, but I'm not going to tell you all of them.
okay.
Pretty much, the avocados actually were a little overripe. So I made sure that I actually got the overripe ones. If you know that you're not going to use your avocados for a while, go ahead and buy the hard ones. But if you know you're going to use it right away, go ahead and you get the soft ones, it's fine. But I got cilantro in there, lime juice. And then I'm just going to finish this off with a little bit of cilantro. The same thing with cilantro. The cilantro, the stems can easily be turned into a sauce. You can soak those overnight. Drain those, and then you'll see all the sand come out of it. And then if you want to add cheese to it, sour cream, there's even a vegan sour cream you could add to that. Actually, if you took the Aquafaba, whip that, and then put a little bit of cream of tartar and a little bit of vinegar, that would give it the flavor of sour cream.
Excellent. What a great idea. That looks beautiful. Yeah. I can almost smell it.
Are you out there with the Admiral? All right. Last thing I have, this is my favorite. This is why I saved it for last, is the collard greens. I love greens. I'm going to plate this up first, and then I want to show you a trick with the greens. For these greens, the whole chickens that I had, inside the whole chicken, there's a little bag, because I bought oven stuffer roasters. There's a little bag in there that has the chicken heart, the chicken livers. Most people just throw that bag away. I throw them in the greens. And then also use the turkey bacon for this. And put a little rice wine vinegar, bay leaf, chicken stock, chopped onions, and a little bit of herb oil. And then these greens I cooked pretty much all day. So they're very, very tender. And the funny thing about it is you'll start with a huge pot. They will cook down almost 12 times. So, I mean, they'll cook down to nothing. There was a little bit of butternut squash left over from the recipe earlier. I threw that in there too, just so it didn't waste it. And then also too, with these greens, these are the celery tips from earlier. You could easily put these in the stock, or what I like to do is just chop them up real thin. The reason being is the fibers grow up. If you slice them, then they won't be as troublesome to you when you're cooking them down. There's nothing, you won't even notice this in the greens once you've cooked them. And then the greens themselves, so you'll see the long stem in there. What you want to do, you could easily just pop them off like that. So you're just running it through your hand. These greens, give it a rough chop. Doesn't have to be perfect. And the actual stems, the same thing. The fibers grow up. So if you could cut the fibers real thin, you could throw them in the greens too.
And Chef, you said this is these are collard greens. Can you use other kinds of greens?
Oh yeah, I did kale the other day. That was beautiful. And you know, whatever's on sale, you can use mustard greens, turnip greens. You could use yeah, whatever greens you have available.
And do they all cook the same amount of time? That's kind
Yeah, pretty much so. The kale will take a little longer because it's a little hardier, but the kale, I mean, you're pretty much cooking them all day anyway. So.
Someone was wondering if you could cook this in a crock pot if it's supposed to cook all day.
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely. The vegetarian chili, you could do that in a crock pot. The chicken stew could easily go in a crock pot.
And actually getting back to the chili, somebody was asking what seasonings you were using in your chili.
I put a little bit of cumin, a little bit of cayenne pepper, chili powder, basil, thyme, oregano, a little bit of salt and pepper to taste. And then depending on how spicy you want it, you know, sometimes if I open up a can of chipotle peppers, I'll throw that in there too. You know, maybe just one little pepper or a little bit of the juice.
And can you talk to us about the difference between using fresh herbs and dried herbs?
Oh yeah, definitely. If you're fortunate enough, like I used a lot of thyme and a lot of rosemary in the recipe site. That's because I have fresh thyme and fresh rosemary growing in the garden. But if you're not that fortunate and you don't want to spend the extra money, you can definitely use dry. And then the dry, you want to do the half the amount for the dry.
Because it's more concentrated when it's dry.
It's more concentrated when it's dry.
Okay.
What am I missing there? Oh, that was it. I'm going to move the camera, the big camera,
okay.
so then we can see the these dishes here.
And someone wanted to know if you if you could speed up the cooking of the greens, if you can blanch them first and then just saute them.
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely. Can you see that? Okay.
Yes, we see 4 beautiful dishes.
Yeah, and I actually made cornbread too.
And you have the pumpkin bread too, right? Oh, you did. Okay.
And I actually have cornbread I made. So the cornbread would definitely go with, you know, the chicken stew Even biscuits would go great with the chicken stew. But yeah. All right. All right, we're open for business. Have everybody come in.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
But yeah, so like you said, the chicken stew, it's a very, very basic dish. You get as creative as you want. You know, you could definitely eliminate all of the vegetables if you wanted to put in capers, a little sage, lemon juice, and a little bit of white wine, and do it that way. And then you could do, like, you know, definitely a lemon caper chicken. So yeah. So
well, that's fabulous.
yeah.
Does anybody else have any questions? I'm just looking in the chat box to see if anybody else had any other questions. Someone's asking about your recipe for cornbread.
You know, it's a very easy recipe. You know, I mean, I know it by heart. It's 12 ounces of flour, 10 ounces of sugar, 6 ounces of cornmeal, a half an ounce of baking powder, and a half a teaspoon of salt, 5 eggs, 10 ounces of butter, 1 tablespoon of vanilla. Eggs, butter, vanilla. What am I missing? Oh, and I'm sorry, a cup and a quarter of milk. Mix the wet, whisk together the dry, and then pour the wet into the dry until it's barely mixed, and that's it. In the oven, 350 degrees, 45 minutes.
Excellent.
Yeah.
There's another question about going back to the chicken stew. What wine do you use in chicken stew?
I used, see, I'm not a drinker, so I used a whatever white wine my neighbor gave me. It's the same gentleman that I did, you know, I just used a dry white wine.
Okay. We can't see the label.
Oh.
No.
But did you see it?
Well, just basically a dry white wine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, you know, I traded a dozen figs, and what else did I give them? What else did we have come up this year?
Tomatoes.
Oh, a dozen figs and some beefsteak tomatoes, and they give me a bottle of wine.
Great. Someone wanted to know if you could add fresh corn to your cornbread, and if so, how much would you put in?
I'll move this. Can you see me now?
Yes.
I don't know if, yeah, you can definitely add fresh corn. I would probably put in maybe about a half a cup. But when you add the corn, the fresh corn, toss the fresh corn in flour first. Just a little bit of flour to coat it, so it doesn't bleed and make the cornbread mushy. Okay.
Good tips.
Can you see me or no?
No, we see your hand and your white jacket.
Oh, okay.
But we're looking at this beautiful food that you've prepared.
All right.
All in an hour, which is amazing.
Actually, move it back and see if you can see me then. No? That's all right.
We can see you in the other camera.
Oh, can you?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Great.
Okay.
So everybody is saying thank you, a hearty thank you, amazing. You're so funny, and thanks for teaching us how to cook while entertaining us.
No problem. That's what I do.
People are really appreciative of seeing all these amazing dishes. And
I really appreciate everybody tuning in. And I want to thank you, Cheryl, for inviting me to do this. You know, it's always an honor to be pushed to make sure that, you know, you're on top of your game. There's a lot of things here that I probably wouldn't have used, but I'm glad that, you know, you invited me to do this. And I really appreciate you putting all this together. It's just amazing week.
Our pleasure. And again, thank you for taking all the time and effort that you've put into creating this amazing menu and sharing it with us tonight. Again, I've just put the recipes in the chat box. So if you want to be able to cook this on your own at home, feel free. Chef Mike was generous enough to share all his recipes with us tonight, and you have that now in the chat box. Mike, why don't you give everybody your email address if they had any follow-up questions?
Sure. It's Mike Ream. It's all small, M-I-K-E-R-E-H-M, the number 34, and at gmail.com. And 30, that's not my age, 34. That was my age when I first got the email, but that was 20 years ago. Maybe I should change it, but yeah. I'm holding on. I'm holding on.
All right, great. Well, again, thank you so much. If folks enjoyed this session or any of the other sessions during Food Recovery Week, look out for our survey that we're going to be sharing with you. We'd love to get your feedback. There is one more event tomorrow. It's a in-person farm tour at the Red Wiggler Community Farm. It's an amazing farm. They've been a tremendous food donor to Community Food Rescue for all the 6 years that Community Food Rescue has been up and operating. And there are 2 tours. The first tour is full, but we opened up a second tour starting at 3 p.m. So if you're interested, I'm going to type in the chat box the website of where you can sign up, the same site that you signed up for the DMV Food Recovery Week.org. And the tour, each tour is limited to 10 people. So, but there is space now if you'd like to join. And there's the link to sign up in Eventbrite for tomorrow. And it should be a gorgeous day tomorrow. All right. If everybody could just virtually give Mike a standing ovation, clapping. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you.
Chef Mike.
Thank you. My pleasure.
All right. And thanks again, everyone, for joining us. Bon appetit. Enjoy. And hopefully we'll see you on another educational session next year.
Excellent. Thank you.
Take care. Thanks again. Bye, everyone.
Bye, Mike. Thanks.
Bye, Mike.
That was awesome.
Oh, hey.
Bill Campbell, 34.
Hey, who's that with you? Hey, you better leave. Val's gonna come by. Can you see me? Can you see how skinny I look?
Amazing. Oh my God, everything looks so delicious. I'm so hungry now.
I don't know who the hell you are, young girl, but you better get the hell out of there before his wife shows up.
We love you, Mike. You're the best.
Oh, I'm not. I'm here with Kathy. She's the best.
Hey, Cap.
Hey, Kat.
Hey.